Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sasi Prasad and I'm a technical architect in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Today we'll be discussing data security with Encrypt symmetric function in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So first let's understand what is symmetric encryption. Symmetric encryption is a method of encryption where the same secret key is used for both encryption and decryption. This means that the sender and the receiver must share the same key beforehand to ensure secure communication. So the password is basically the secret key that we are using, and the password has to be shared between both the parties. What is a ciphertext? Ciphertext is the encrypted form of the original plaintext. Data is encrypted using a symmetric key, it becomes ciphertext, and it can be converted back to its original form using the same symmetric key and using the decryption algorithm. So why we use this salt? The purpose of using salt is to prevent the same plaintext always encrypting to the same ciphertext. Means you're adding an extra layer of security to the encryption process. And we also have an initialization vector. This initialization vector is a random or a fixed value used in combination with the key password for encryption. It is commonly used with the block ciphers to ensure that the same plaintext does not produce the same ciphertext. Before jumping to the problem statement and discussing this use case, first let me show you the demo. So let me first jump to my Salesforce Marketing Cloud instance. So I have created a cloud page and I have used that cloud page as my custom app to basically perform encryption and decryption and store it into a data extension. Here, if I navigate to this app exchange and click on Encrypt Symmetric, I have pre-filled all these values for the demo purpose. And if I click on this submit button, where I'm basically encrypting this client ID and the client secret, it will do the encryption and store into the data extension. Let's go to the data extension. So here it has been created, right? And if you want to decrypt, basically during decryption, I'm not storing the value, I'm simply printing the value and showing it to the user. And if I select decrypt and click submit, so this was my plain text that I encrypted. Okay. You can also, here I have performed the encryption and decryption with user supplied password, salt value, and the initialization vector. You can store this password, salt value, and the initialization vector under key management. You can go to the setup. Under setup, you can go to the data management and click on the key management. In the key management, you can go there and click on create, and you get an option what kind of value is storing. So the password, you can store it as a symmetric. For the initialization vector, you can click initialization vector and store it here. And for the salt, you can store the salt value here. And then the external key that after you save this, you get an external key, and you can use that external key here for the password, salt, and the initialization vector and perform this activity. It will work fine. So now let's move back to our current discussion, how we are basically simplifying data security. So in the Trailblazer community under Marketing Cloud user group, there is a lot of discussion that is happening with respect to storing client ID and the client secret. So where we are storing this client ID and client secret once we create the API install package. Normally what we do is, when we are learning Marketing Cloud, we copy the client ID and client secret, paste it in our code, and then perform the activities. Slowly, people are moving to storing this client ID and client secret into a data extension, doing a lookup, fetching the value, and they perform the activities. Right now, slowly there is a point where people now are saying, let's not add client ID and client secret into the data extension. I'm not sure whether this is correct in all the contexts, right? Because we are also storing customer email address and phone number into a data extension. That is a different discussion altogether. But assuming that we should store encrypted values into the data extension, we are proceeding further. So I have listed the security concerns, why that security concerns arises because of the centralized dependency, okay, the scalability and flexibility, and everything depends on the developer experience. So having a theoretical knowledge about encryption and cryptography is something different, and having a practical application and implementing for a project is totally a different ball game. Let's keep that in check there. So here I'll directly jump to the solution part. You can go through my blog and read it for yourself. So you can basically go to the API install package, and from the API install package, you can select the component as Salesforce Marketing Cloud app, provide the descriptions, give the login endpoint and the logout endpoint. Here, in this case, the cloud page that you created with the HTML forms, the published URL would be the endpoints. Fine. And then when you create the cloud page, obviously you are using the HTML form tag, which you should deploy and use it for your application. I've showed you the data extension. To store the ciphertext, you need to basically store it into a data extension. Okay, and there has been a lot of discussions I've seen in the Trailblazer community, where a lot of questions are raised asking whether we can hide data extensions from other users. So I will explain this with a caveat that use your own due diligence before applying these permissions to the data extension. So you can create data extension on the shared data extension. You can go to your parent business unit, and from the email studio, you can go to that particular data extension and right click, and then you'll get the permissions. This permission window will be open. You can click on edit and give the necessary permission. It's not based on the user, but it's based on the business unit. You can give full access to a business unit, or you can give certain permissions like viewing or deleting and some other things, or creating subfolders. What you can do is you can totally uncheck all these checkboxes and remove the permissions for that particular business unit. You can also remove the full permissions from the parent business unit as well. But once you do it from the parent business unit, you will not be able to view what data extensions or folders were created under that particular folder. But obviously, you can do SSS programming to retrieve the data or query using SQL query. Okay, you can do all those operations, but obviously the user should not be able to see the data extension. But again, I'm saying you can apply your own due diligence before making the change in the permission for that data extension. So obviously for decryption also, only the encryption is not a solution. Or whenever you want to basically use it for calling REST API, you always have to decrypt the values, and the salt password and the initialization vector has to be stored in some centralized location. So you should always follow the key management, and inside the key management, you can store all those values that can be used for your decryption functions. And encryption process. So in the custom app, you need to have a mechanism to obfuscate into data extension. I have used AMPscript to obfuscate the encrypted value to the data extension. Okay. The most important aspect with regards to this application is the access control and monitoring. So with respect to access, you can go to the install package, and for that particular install package that you created this app, you can click on the access and give permission to only those users who would be using this application for encryption. And inside your cloud page, you can use the refer URL function to capture the origin from where that request originated. And through the regex, you can perform certain operations to validate whether it originated from the predefined URL or it is being called from some external sources. And then you can either deny the permission or authorize the permission to perform the encryption function. This is not a foolproof solution. What you can also do is you can add all the HTTP properties into a data extension, and you can create a list of IP addresses and a list of another IP addresses where you want to block. So you can have the block IPs and the whitelist IPs and give the authorization who can use this application. I'm not going into the compliance and documentation. Points to remember. We need to understand why we need salt and initialization vector. So both these values are used to create some randomness and uniqueness to the ciphertext that is generated. And every time a unique ciphertext is generated, if you are utilizing these values in a more proficient way. I have given you the code here. You can try it yourself. I have given this code how you can basically encrypt and decrypt in the cloud page and create an application. I have given the explanation as well. There may be certain changes, but this function is verified and is working. Okay. The issue here, what I mostly see is with respect to the radio button or checkbox that we use. So you can go to Mozilla developers website. Okay. So here you can see some explanation which will help you not only this creating custom applications, but normal preference centers and other cloud pages that you're working where you deploy a lot of checkboxes and all. So for that, we just explain you what happens when you uncheck a checkbox before submitting the form. Okay, so I'm going to this note. If a checkbox is unchecked when the form is submitted, neither the name nor the value is submitted to the server. There is no HTML only method for representing a checkbox unchecked state. If you want to submit a default value for the checkbox when it is unchecked, you can include a hidden input field, which will basically send it to the server. So what, in a nutshell, what is trying to say is, let's say you're creating a preference center, and in the preference center, let's say you have 2-3 checkboxes, okay, say events, newsletter, and what you have, webinars. So these are the preferences for a particular user. And when they come to the cloud page and it is initially checked, and when the user clicks and unchecks the checkboxes, and on the post, if you want to validate whether it was unchecked, you will not be able to determine, because HTML does not post the unchecked checkboxes. So for that, you need to have some hidden input fields which will send the value. We can discuss this in some other sessions. For today, I will just summarize what we discussed. Symmetric encryption can show you a few of them, like you have the GUID, and maybe I think I have already stated that GUID does not necessarily reproduce random number every time. It has 50% probability of creating the same value. You can Google and search and look it for yourself. I don't recommend everyone to use GUID. When it comes to MD5, MD5 is one of the interesting encryption technology, but in Marketing Cloud, you have one caveat. This is one-way hash conversion, does not allow later decryption. So you can encrypt the value, but you can't decrypt the value. So be careful when you're using MD5 for encryption. And I can go on and on. I would like to stop here. I will request you all to go through this blog, read this blog thoroughly, carefully, and I would love to hear your feedback, and hope you enjoyed this session. See you all in some other videos. If you like this video, give a thumbs up. If you have any questions, put a comment on the video. I will definitely try to answer all your queries and concerns. See you all. Bye.